Norma?
These bond issues that you're talking about, number 5, what are the rest of them? And why don't we have a copy of them? We don't know what this is. We've never been given a copy of them.
Norma, are you asking it of?
Well, Mr. Santos mentioned.
Right, I was speaking about number 5. There are other ones. I believe there are 3 other ones.
Mr. Santos, how about if you come to the microphone? But Norma's question needs to be repeated. She is wondering about the bonds that Mr. Santos referred to. How do we get a hold of copies of those so as to vote?
I think it works well to repeat the question.
Absolutely. I don't have copies of the bond of the city ones. I brought the copy of the one for the school department for the school bonds, which I had attached to the information that I had, my background sheet that I handed out. Another gentleman had asked also about, the ones for the city. I know that there's a tax cap one for the city. There's also one pertaining to
We gotta wait
procedure.
until the day we vote to read these things and find out what they are?
Oh, okay, here you go. Local questions. Number 5. Number 5 is the one I spoke about, okay. Number 6 and 7, amendment to the City of East Providence Charter. Shall the Charter of the City of East Providence be amended as follows? And I can read it out. Do you want me to?
1, 2, 3, 4,
That's for state questions.
Yes.
Right.
City questions.
Right, 5, that's what I'm saying, that's what I say, 5 on is for the city, I'd be happy to read it out if you wanted
No,
me
it's
to.
all right.
Oh, okay.
It's all right.
Are you sure? I mean, I'd be more than happy. It is, it's available on the Secretary of State's website.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that the city didn't send something out on that, but apparently they did.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lisa, did you want to add?
I mean, this is.
Actually, I was down at Board of Canvassing this week, and I asked, usually they send out a booklet with all the information on all the bonds and all the things for you to vote on. They did not, because of change of hands, they did not send that out this year. So what I can do for you is I can get some copies for you, and I will drop them off to you tomorrow.
Thank you. We've got 1, 2, 3,
Oh, you
4.
mean,
We've got the book
this is
on.
Yeah,
number
the booklets
5
from the
on the
state
total.
did come out, right.
There's a,
On the
there's,
total
and then there's,
referendum.
at least 5 through 7, so 2 more for the city side.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Yes?
Hello. The teacher contract and all of the strong views that went back and forth before it was finally settled. And Mrs. Rossi mentioned civility and humor. Apparently a lot of that was lacking. Could you comment, any of you, on that whole procedure of the teacher's contract?
Absolutely. So the question has to do with the teacher's contract and a statement made by Mrs. Rossi.
The contract for the teachers, in my opinion, could have been negotiated with more civility. In my opinion, I feel that they were allowed to have very little voice in their contract. They took it, the administration, the school committee, they took a bad situation and made it worse. With better negotiation, basically, they threw their hands up and said, okay, that's it, here's what you're getting. And they spent $1 million on lawyers to get that accomplished. I think if they had better negotiating skills, a better negotiating team, it wouldn't have cost the city over $1 million for Mr. Kinder, the lawyer for the city, or for the school department.
Does anybody?
Yes.
Mr. Amaral?
Obviously, I wasn't involved in those because I wasn't there, but I have been through many negotiations. And one of the things that I support is open negotiations. Now, there's been a lot of, finger pointing from both sides. What if all these negotiations were done in the open? Then you could see and decide for yourself who's right, who's wrong, who's lying, who's not lying. To me, sunshine is the best disinfectant, so this is what I would support, open negotiations. You people pay the bills, you have the right to have a say on those negotiations. The way it is now, everything is secret. They vote on the contract, then they have to go to the membership before even it's public. Why, how come you guys don't have the same right? The school committee represents you. You are their members. Before the contract is final, school committee should go to their members, you, the public, the taxpayers, to see if you agree, and if you don't, then the contract should not be signed. That's my opinion.
Mr. Santos?
We all know that that was a very contentious period of time. But I think you have to understand that what the situation was with the city at the time. We were over $4 million in debt, and we were looking at another $5 million in debt coming our way in one fiscal year. It was brought to the table, the negotiations. It was asked of the teachers' union, please, we need some help here. We need this amount of money in concessions. However you want to structure it is fine. If you want more money, we're willing to do that. But we need something back on the other end. Bottom line is, we needed to have the budget, reduced by over $3 million. It went back and forth. It was contentious, as a lot of labor negotiations are. But it was also, what's the word I'm looking for here? Probably nasty at times, because if somebody's getting what they're used to always getting what they're getting, and all of a sudden there's pushback, people don't like that. The negotiations continued, all of the proper steps were followed. It went right down the line to the point where the city had to do what it had to do. State law specifically states you cannot deficit spend. It acted, the school committee acted to do what it needed to do. And you talk about, civility. I still have memories of that meeting back on January 9th, 2009, over at the high school, when there's over 1,200 people in that building. Many of them bust in from other communities out of state, yelling, screaming, making obscene gestures, yelling obscenities. We're trying to have a school committee meeting, and that's what's going on. That, we did finish the meeting, and then we were given, police escort out of the building. My 81-year-old dad is there, because he wanted to come see the meeting, right? They had to give him a police escort out of the building because he'd come with me, because he's in fear of being attacked. That's ridiculous. And you talk, Mrs. Rossi talks about, we spend $1 million. No. Every step of the way, we were fought tooth and nail by the union. Every action that we took was a reaction to what they did. Everything went to court. You take it to court, you have to answer it. The total bill for that was somewhere around $650,000 for that year, for that budget year, right? And over $350,000 of it was directly related to the negotiations. And what was the bottom line? What was the end result of all the negotiations? We got a contract. We finally did get a contract. And the contract was essentially everything that we asked for in the first place. And it was approved by almost 80% of the membership of the union. So I do ask, what was the point of all of this? All this fighting, all this, arguing and everything. You talk about, lack of civility. And in the end, obviously, 80% of the membership agreed to that contract. It wasn't a close vote, it was 80%. And most of the membership was there. I think something like 90% of the membership was there. So it wasn't like 80% of the 50% who showed up. They showed up. It takes a long time to get over things. I've lived in the state all my life. My dad was involved in, my dad was, Secretary Treasurer for Local 328 for years and years. He spent his life negotiating contracts. I used to see him come home so frustrated and aggravated, on the things that was, that he had to deal with. But in the end, you know what? They get it done. In the end, we got it done. We do have a contract, it's in place. We've negotiated contracts with the teachers' assistants. We negotiated contracts, with the secretaries. We even renegotiated a contract with the janitors, who didn't have to renegotiate because they had a labor agreement in place. But you know what? They understood the problems that this city has, that they needed to give back more because they were seeing what the city side wanted to do. The city side wanted to farm it out, right? Bring in outside contractors to clean the buildings and take care of things, right? Didn't want that on the school side. Those guys are in, those janitors are in the buildings all day long with these school kids, right? They know the kids love them, they take care of these kids like they're their own kids, right? So they understood what had to be done. And the net result is, they got, we've got a contract with them that you, the taxpayers, can live with, they're happy with, they've got secure jobs, right? We've got a workforce in that school system, in those buildings that the kids can identify with, they know these people, right? And we got proud people out there working in those buildings. I give those janitors a lot of credit. They bust their hump out there taking care of those buildings. And believe me, you see some of those buildings and it needs, the yeoman work that those guys do is tremendous. So, I would like to see a little bit more civility. I'm not saying, I don't stand up, call people names and obscenities and stuff like that. And I don't appreciate it when people do it to us either.